Hi, this is Andreas from Vizlab Studios. Today I want to talk to you about how I made this image. This is made using Oculus Medium, Octane render and Photoshop. So I'll just quickly on a high level walk you through how I made it. I don't want to dive into the specific programs too much, but just more like the workflow of the whole thing. So enjoy. So here I'm working inside Oculus Medium. So this is recorded from the headset. So it's a bit wobbly, but that's how it is when you record inside VR. It's a really nice sculpting tool. It doesn't have the full functionality of 3D code or ZBrush, but it does poses some other things that are really nice. That you get the sense of space much more when you're working inside VR. So this is a really great feature. Here I'm just working with the pre-created stamps inside Oculus Medium. It comes with a library of stamps, so it's really nice that it has all these pre-made stamps or kits if you want. So from there it's a matter of exporting it out, but I will just add a little bit more to this. So I create a new layer, a new color, just to be able to look at things apart from each other so it doesn't all blend into one big chunk. So I'll just make the skulls a little bit more red so I can see what is what. Again, it doesn't have the full functionality of, for example, 3D code or ZBrush, but I think the benefit is the speed and the fact that you have this volumetric feel when you're inside VR. So the benefit is that you can work much faster. I find it for hard surface stuff, it's really nice because it comes with a great library of hard surface kits that you can work with, and it's really easy to export out and then use inside, for example, Octane render. So now I'm just making some candles on this little altar piece here that I'm making. So for this I wanted to go for something organic, so I chose this brush that is like lava rocks. So it sort of gives a good enough impression as a candle with wax dripping down. So now I just drag it into Maya just to optimize the mesh a bit. I'm working with my LT, so this is why I also have to optimize it, because the export limit is 250,000 polygons, which is a really annoying feature. And if you take the mesh directly from Oculus Medium into Octane render, it will come in as one mesh, which is really annoying. I don't know how to work around that. So I just take it through Maya, just optimize the mesh. It doesn't really lose that much quality from being optimized, so it's a good practice also to just optimize it. So I take it down to maybe 10%, 5% of the original poly count. So I think the original poly count goes for around 4 million, and then we go below 250. So now if I open up Octane render, I just put in a render target and then add in the geometry, add some material to it, add the camera and add the rendering passes. So this is a really basic setup. So I'm just looking for the camera angle. I'm just importing a texture environment and then putting in an HDR map just to get some light going on. So I won't do much more to it than this. You could texture it inside Octane render, but I think for this it's good enough to just go with some basic material and call it that, and then work on the textures inside Photoshop. It takes a little bit of time to render, but I also cranked up the image to 4,000 pixels wide, so it takes a little bit of time. Inside Photoshop, I take out two layers. One layer is the masking layer, and the other the material ID, and the other one is just the beauty pass. So basically it makes it really easy to mask out inside Photoshop. So I just make a rough sketch of what I have in my mind, what I wanted to create. So basically I'll just throw in some photos at it. Just I don't want to like spend too much time sketching. This is just a demonstration on the workflow. So I have an idea in mind of what I want to go with. I have my image library that I can just pull from. I'll just drop it in and adjust along the way and go with the happy accidents as well. My normal procedure would be to do some more sketching and some thumbnails first, just to make sure that I'm on the right path. But for this, it's just I'll just work with the images and hope for the best. These images are taken with my phone, so they are not that good quality, but for this kind of purpose, they're really, really fine. So this is something that I've experienced, that it's really, really nice to have a phone, and it's really nice because it comes with a camera and you can always take images. So I constantly add new images to my photo library. I buy a lot of photos online from photobash.org and other places, ArtStation Marketplace. But it's really, really nice to also have your own set. And this set actually has something that I've used quite a lot. It's taken in a mountain region in the Basque country. So I have used this quite extensively actually, which is really, really nice. I know by now what kind of images that potentially could be really good to have. So whenever I'm walking in a forest or something like that, I take some photos because I know they could come in handy. So here I am trying to put on some textures on this guy. So basically just use the blend modes inside Photoshop to blend in the textures. I could warp them along with the perspective of the element, but for a thing like a texture, I think it's too much, like a stone texture is too much. I think at this point I realized that I might want to go with a bit of a different perspective. So I just jump a little bit back and forth between Photoshop, eyeballing it, finding a new perspective, and then rendering that out and just batching the PNGs out from Octane. This I could probably go with taking a screenshot inside Photoshop, putting in the background of Octane render, just to make sure that I'm aligned, but I think eyeballing it for this one is good enough, it's close enough. So in my first attempt here, I find actually the angle that I'm looking for. So I try to always stick with solutions as much as possible that take the complexity level down. So eyeballing it, screenshotting, like all these kind of things that, like instead of waiting for a long time or setting up something complex, just go with the fastest thing you can think of, just to save some time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Here I'm just extending the set a little bit, so the image in the background didn't have the needed resolution to go all the way to the edge, so I'm just painting a little bit again at the edge here. So again, it's also like a matter of what is the purpose of this image. If it's just to state an idea, it doesn't need to necessarily be super, super sharp and precise all the way. So again, I prefer speed over time, in the sense that I prefer to be able to paint out an idea really fast than to look through a lot of images to really find the perfect image and spend a lot of time cropping in. So I blend painting and images really fast in this sense. So I'm going in to clean up a little bit on the stones. I'm just adding a different color also to the candles. And I'm just gonna paint in a little bit of contact shadow, ambient occlusion along the skulls. And also the same at the base of this altar piece. And here I'm trying to put in some of the light that shines from the top left. It has this cold quality to it, so I just want to add a little bit more. From the render we get a little bit of a cold shadow, cold light, sorry, but not that much, so I just wanted to emphasize it a little bit more, so just exaggerate it. And here I'm just flipping the image to the other side. Flipping the image is really, really nice because it gives this brand like a fresh look at the image that you've been working on. So if you've been working on this for like say 10 minutes, it's good to flip it over to the other side, just to it will be so much easier to pick up on mistakes that you made because you get sort of this fresh look at it. Just trying to warp Control-Shift-X, warp some of this into place so that it might fit a little bit in front of the altarpiece as well. So I generally go with that the foreground elements here, I'll keep it a bit darker so that it feels like it's settling in the foreground, and then blend it more towards the environment as we go further behind. And then I'm trying to just take a lot of these trees that I've taken photos of and just utilize them as good as I can by cropping, like masking out everything that I don't need and just painting it down in value so that it feels like a foreground element as well. And then I will start to really work with the overlapping of the 3D piece so that it feels like it's embedded into the environment. A lot of things that like most things you'll find in a forest, it will be overlapped by multiple other things. Like if you look at the roots of a tree, you will find that it's overlapped by stones, by moss, by fallen branches, by all kind of stuff on the ground. So everything will sort of be overlapped on top of each other. So you can get a feeling that it's more settled into the environment by having all these things overlapping it. So just paint a little bit of fog in the background, just lightening up the value as well, just to make it feel like it's more distant from the camera. And here just try to paint the skulls a little bit, not that blue, and try to get it a little bit darker around the skulls. I wasn't super happy with the result of the skulls and the candles. The values became a little bit too close. But again, as it was a demo done in less than an hour, I didn't really want to go back in and redo the whole thing. So I'll just stick with that and hope that the process is what I can sell this one on and not the final image. So bear with me there. Just a bit of highlighting, trying to figure out like if we have this a little bit humid environment, then we will get a little bit sharper highlights on top of things where there might be a little bit of moist catching some light. Just adding some cracks that can also catch some light. Just playing with the value separation, taking something down if it needs to be behind some other things, or pulling something into more light. So every time you make something that you want to overlap, make sure that the values, they're separated so it feels separated from each other, not only by form but also by value. And here I just want to get some textures in this foreground element. I'm not quite sure that it works, so I think I'll just paint it. I painted it down again into darkness. So generally I tend to work all over the image at the same time to try to not stick with one part of an image too long. So I tend to work for like small details on the right hand side, then go big shapes on the other side, then back to details, and then back and forth, because it gives this nice rhythm so that you don't get stuck in noodling details just to find out that everything else is broken. Here I'm just making a quick mask of some grass just to save a bit of painting time. I'm not really sure that it really saved me that much time, this one, but it was fun. It's also fun to just try to see if you can get some happy accident out by masking out these images. So again, just stamping out some of these things that would overlap the 3D piece just to make it feel more settled into the image. And here just manually painting some individual grass. I'm just adding a bit more to the environment at the top right just to close off that corner of the image. Just adding details now, things that would hang from these roots of the trees. So if you look at my layer editor over at the right hand side, it's a bit messy, but I try to clean it up along the way. If it was for a client, I would keep it much more organized, but as this was just a demo done in a short time, I just add new layers when I need to, and then hope for the best that I can figure out what I did along the way. But usually when the process is pretty quick, there's no real reason to clean up along the way. So from time to time I just merge a lot of the layers that I don't feel that I need anymore, with the risk that I needed at some point a mask of some sort. But sometimes I just keep a mask at the top of the stack. So if you look at the red and the yellow layer, that's masks that I just kept in case that I need them again. So this concludes this little demonstration. I think working with VR has some, or working with Oculus Medium has some really big advantages. At the same time, it has some drawbacks. So it's a matter of balancing when to use VR and when to use other sculpting softwares. It's still something that I'm experimenting with, and I hope by sharing this that I can also inspire you guys to try out sculpting inside VR. It's really fun, it's really intuitive. The learning curve is really not that steep, so it's ready to jump right into it and try it out for yourself. So if you have been inspired by this, go nuts, try it out, and I would love to see some results. So please leave a comment in the video. If you think somebody else would benefit from this, please share or give a comment or like. We appreciate all of that. Other than that, have a really nice day and see you guys around.